wanna play?
What's your favorite scary movie?
What's the prime time, bitch?
Ooh, scary.
Why haven't you checked the children?
It all began with a scream over 911.
Good evening, Slasher fans. You're here with a brand new episode of the Slasher Studios Horror Podcast. Tonight we're going to be talking about character mistakes in horror movies, kind of like the dumb decisions that they made that ended up getting them killed or possibly end up getting their friends killed. So that's going to be a fun show for me.
Yeah.
I'm here with my co-host, Andrew. Andrew, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. I had a very busy day at work, so I'm very possible to be even more scatterbrained than usual.
Well, that's totally understandable. Last weekend you were at Horror Hound Weekends in Ohio. How was that?
It was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, most of the guests that I wanted to meet had all canceled. So I just kind of I don't know. I just kind of just hung around mostly. It was still a lot of fun.
Who all ended up canceling?
Well, the cast from the Scream TV series canceled, and then Madchen Amick canceled last minute, and I feel like there was more. I just can't recall right now.
That's crazy. Do you know why she canceled or what happened there?
She said she was filming.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. And so and it was a lot of Walking Dead people or The Strain or Ralph Macchio and stuff. So it was just kind of a lot of people that I was very kind of about. So I just kind of hung around with everybody.
And that's kind of something that I've noticed the Horror Hounds. If you kind of want a grab bag of horror icons and celebrities, the March one's better to go to. But if you kind of like the reunions or very specific horror guests, September is the one for you.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing a Candyman reunion this September. Oh, who else? Let's see who else canceled. Alexander Breckenridge canceled. Curtis Armstrong, who I wanted to meet because the Return of the Living Dead canceled, and Ted Raimi also canceled.
Yeah, that's quite a bit of people.
Yeah, so 7 of the people I wanted to meet all canceled. But what can you do, right?
Yeah, I saw that for the Screamcast that they ended up canceling because they had a photo shoot, and I was just like, I mean, that's kind of really dumb of MTV. I mean, granted, it's a photo shoot, whatever, but I mean, this is
it's a
pretty
photo
much.
Shoot.
Yeah, not only that, but they would get so much free advertising just for the weekend there that I don't understand why they would turn that down.
Exactly, and I'm hoping that they don't cancel them in April when they're at Texas Frightmare. But unfortunately, John Carna, who plays the Randy character Noah, he is not at Texas Frightmare. It's just Brooke and Audrey. So that's another reason I'm kind of bummed is because I wanted to meet him too, but maybe they'll add him last minute.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible.
Weirder things have happened.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing, with that kind of stuff, you really kind of never know, who's going to sign on, I remember it was my very first Horror Hound Weekends. We went there because Teddy was screening there, and we're okay, well, that's awesome. Are there any celebrities? And it was it was an Aliens versus, Terminator reunion, and I mean I like both of those franchises, not enough to pay like top dollar to meet the people from it. So I was just like, meh, like I probably won't get any autographs this time. And then all of a sudden, like the last two guests that were signed on were Amanda Weiss and Heather Langenkamp, and I'm just like, oh, well, that's weird. Like,
yeah, that's how it goes. And as it stands now, Texas Frightmare is filled with people that I am going to like get autographs for and just completely like nerd out about. I mean, it's well, because I mean, there's obviously like the usuals like Lance Henriksen and Kane Hodder and Tony Todd and Robert Englund, and I will meet Tony Todd one of these days. Sooner or later, he's going to stop doing them. But then we've got like Matthew Lillard and David Arquette, and then the screencast, and then Tom Matthews from Friday the 13th Part 6 is finally going to be at a con I'm at, so I can meet and tell him he's my favorite Tommy Jarvis, and Meg Foster's going to be there, and oh God, who else? I can finally meet Nancy Loomis from Halloween in the Fog. And, of course, Brooke Cease is going to be there, so I have to go have her sign my action figure.
No, that's awesome. Like, there's a good, like, chunk of just people there that, like, there's kind of, like, just that's kind of like a grab bag of, like, slasher people, which is, like, the best of the best.
Yeah, it's a big Nightmare on Elm Street marathon, so let's hope nobody cancels.
Fingers crossed. So, well, you've been busy with Horror Hound and busy with working. Have you had a chance to watch any new horror movies lately?
I haven't, unfortunately. I really, like, I've got a ton that I want to catch up on this weekend. Trying to get back to normal after a convention is always a difficult thing.
No, I mean, I don't even have a convention as kind of an excuse, and I haven't watched anything new either. I haven't even seen, I know that you saw it last week. I still haven't seen Cloverfield. I want to. Probably going to at some point. Maybe I'll go see it next Tuesday because it should be kind of, the theater should be kind of crazy with people going to Batman versus Superman, but hopefully, like, everything else is kind of dead. So fingers crossed on that one.
Yeah, and also this weekend there's a Turkish horror movie called, I want to say it's called Baskin, and it's about like a police raid, and it turns into like they interrupt a black mass, and like they get pulled into like hell or something. Like, I don't really know a lot about it because I've been trying to, except for people have said it's really good. So I believe that's limited in VOD.
Nice.
This weekend. So I'm going to definitely try to watch that one.
Yeah, you guys are so lucky. Like, we would never get something like that here.
I don't think that's coming here, but it is coming VOD. So I'll, if anything, I'll rent it from Amazon. Sorry. Blink moment.
Yeah. No, I'm really glad they kind of have those opportunities now for horror fans. You know, before you'd wait 6 months, and even then, like, you know, in the days of kind of the mom and pop video stores, like, and even in like kind of the early days of DVD, like, you know, there wasn't really a chance to just like find stuff or rent stuff online. So I mean, it was pretty much like, oh well, you want to watch this movie? It's not easy to find, so you're just gonna have to buy it.
Exactly, and it sucks. But you know, what can you do?
Yeah,
Thankfully, now it's a lot easier to watch.
I mean, the youngsters of today probably are going to think that I'm exaggerating. You know that that I'm not here, but like I remember like back in the day when like a new release would come out on DVD, and I'd be so excited that it was under $20.
Yeah. Well, and like not only that, I mean, it took forever because, like, in the 80s and stuff like that, movies, like horror movies, were not big releases. Like, they would go from town to town. So sometimes, I mean, it could take up, like, over a year for something to hit VHS. So they just don't know how good they had it.
Yeah, and I mean, even then, what you would have that happened a lot in the 80s was that, and this is like when I first started searching out horror movies, is there are so many movies of the 70s and 80s that were released multiple times, that were released under multiple titles, and it's hard to, like, I remember when I was first kind of starting out, like I'm like, oh, like, what's Pranks and how is it different from like Dorm with Your Blood? And I mean, that's just like one example, but there are tons of them out there where it's just like, I don't know which movie's which.
Exactly. Well, and they would have different poster art because like they didn't do so well on their first like theatrical release, but then, you know, slashers got big again, so they repackaged it and decided to dump it back out and hope that, you know, they'll make a quick buck off of it. So you just never know.
My best story of that was when I was, this was probably a good decade ago. I was really getting into kind of Italian horror, and I bought Zombie and I bought Zombie 2 on DVD. And I did not know that happened to be the same movie. Like, because they both had different cover art. The pictures on the back were different. I'm just like, oh, this is a sequel. I put it in right after watching the first one, and I'm like, oh, yeah, this is the same movie.
Oh, well, that's kind of how it always goes.
Yeah, and I mean,
it's a shame, but
there was just the other day that me and our buddy Josh, I think we were at like Half Price Books and we were like looking at movies, and there was some movie there. I want to say like, is it like Seven Doors of Hell or something? Where he like looked at it and he's like, what is this? Like, because like I think it was God, I'm just completely drawing a blank, but it was Fulci, and we're like, what is it? Like, I don't even know what this is. So he like scanned like the cover art on his phone, and he's like, oh, this is The Beyond.
Oh.
And I'm just like, I wouldn't have known that.
Oh God, yeah, I still have yet to see The Beyond. One of these days I'll get to it.
Well, I know too there was other ones. I know Deep Red goes by another title. Blood Rage, there's like Nightmare at Shadow Ridge or something. Like there's just a lot. It's very strange.
Well, and I mean that's just kind of, it's not something like, I don't know. It's frustrating, but at the same time, I understand why they did it. If that makes sense.
Oh no, I totally get it.
I don't know. Once again, I'm just talking out of my ass.
Well, I mean, it reminds me of like the commentary for Warlock Moon. Joe Bob Briggs was talking about the movie, and he's like, well, of course, like only in the 70s would you name a movie Warlock Moon when it contains 0 moons and 0 warlocks.
Yep. Well, and that's just the thing is there's so many times, like Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2. Like, there's no Blair Witch, there's no Book of Shadows. Like, it's kind of like, why did we call it that?
Well, I mean, I guess we can kind of jump right into our show. I guess we talked a little bit about dumb title mistakes, if you want to call it that. So we're going to be talking about dumb character mistakes, stuff that really kind of made us angry, or we're just like I know there's a couple on my list that like once these characters made these mistakes, I'm just like, they can die. Like, if you're going to be that stupid, you know, more power to you, because you kind of deserve to be dead for making these kind of stupid errors. But, Andrew, is there one on your list in particular that you would like to start out with?
Well, I mean, I feel like this is on both of our lists, and that is I Know What You Did Last Summer, Sarah Michelle Gellar, 1 foot away from everybody in the parade, stops to turn around. Like, I can't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you on this one. It's very frustrating because I don't know, like, it's fine that people kind of make mistakes in horror movies because that's what people do. But, you know, if you're going to kind of portray a character as very strong and very independent and very smart, it's just like, okay, well, you're just throwing this in here because you really don't know what else to do with the character and you just need them dead. Like, and that can be, that's so much more frustrating when it's actually a character that you root for because, I mean, if she had been just like, you know, this stupid blonde bimbo type character, you know, I would have been like, well, yeah, of course she would do that. But she wasn't, and that's what kind of makes it all the more irritating.
Exactly. I mean, she's a pretty, like, badass character. I mean, she is, like, she does a lot of things that you don't even, like, I mean, I never would have thrown myself out a window, but okay. But just the fact that she's just like, oh, well, you know, I'm just going to turn and see if, like, he's there. Like, that's just dumb. Stupid.
No, it's really stupid. And, yeah, I mean, the whole throwing yourself out the window, you know, I guess she must be a student of the Friday the 13th movies because that's the only other franchise I can think of that, like, heroines, like, did that quite a bit, whether they were throwing themselves or did it themselves, or whether they were thrown or did it themselves. Like, yeah, that was just very common. So, yeah, I totally agree with that one.
Cool.
So moving on, this is actually a recent one, and I had to mention this, even though it's really funny because it's on my list, but it's actually a movie that I liked more than you did. And that's It Follows. After the opening, and when we find out what this thing does, and kind of the power behind it, which, I mean, it's very vague. It's directly supposed to be vague. The decisions these characters make, you know, if you know this thing is after this girl, your friend, and the only way to get this thing, you know, to go after you is to have sex with her, she not only convinces one of her friends to do it, she convinces two of her friends to do it. And it's just, you know, it's so frustrating. And, I mean, it doesn't really make sense to me. I mean, I think there are kind of, you know, logic problems with that movie. You know, it's a wonderfully acted movie. It's gorgeous to look at. It's very suspenseful. Love the score. There are some kind of logic and plot problems, but that's kind of the biggest one for me because I was just like, no, like, why are you guys doing this?
Well, and that kind of lumps in with a few of the others I was going to talk about, where it's like The Ring or Fear.com or something, where it's like, oh, if you watch this video, you're going to die a week later, or, you know, if you visit this website, you're going to die. And it's just kind of like, if I was told if I watched a video that I would die in a week, I would not seek that out, like, and watch it. So, yeah.
Well, and what I find really funny, too, is the fact that, you know, we're kind of complaining about this. We're like, no one would ever do that. When we just talked the other week about how much the box from the possession went for on eBay. So I'm like, I guess people are doing this.
Well, exactly. And it's, I won't understand it because, quite frankly, I do not want to test the limits on things like that. But, I mean, call me a chicken all you want. But, yeah, I'm not going to watch a movie where I'll apparently die in weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a pretty big skeptic, but at the end of the day, like, no, I'm not going to touch that stuff, like, because you really do never know.
Nope.
So what else do you got?
Okay. Now, in Wrong Turn 4, which is the prequel to the rest of the Wrong Turn series, and it doesn't make it any better, a group of snowmobilers take refuge from a storm in an abandoned mental institution where our three backwater hillbilly monsters have lived and are picking them off one by one. Now, at one moment, they have them all trapped in a jail cell locked, and everybody votes to kill them except for the lead girl who says, if we do this, we will be just as bad as they are. We shouldn't kill them. But, of course, since they've lived in this abandoned mental institution for a long time, they know how to get out of these jail cells, and they proceed to pick off all of them one by one. So I feel that is one of the other stupidest things in a horror movie. Like, I think it was at that moment where I had just given up any chance of that movie being good.
Yeah, that's an awful one. Like, I remember when I was watching that movie, when it kind of got to that scene, that was pretty much the scene when I told myself, yeah, I'm done with this franchise. I still haven't seen 5. I haven't seen 6. I did finish 4. Wasn't good. But
Don't.
It's just like, come on, these characters making these decisions, like what, like who, like I just don't get like what the rationale is behind that. You know, I guarantee that they were like, okay, well, this is just kind of an easy out, you know, and it'll make the characters look better.
We're gonna show how the lead girl's a goody two shoes.
Yeah, it's just like, no, I mean. And we mentioned that on our show, too, the other time. It's like, in general, prequels don't work for horror movies either because, obviously, if these are the villains, they can't die because we saw them in these other movies that are, you know, that would have taken place after this. So you can't even work really that angle.
No. It's just, it's frustrating. And the thing with the Wrong Turn series is, every sequel, I'm like, wow, it couldn't get any worse than this, can it? And then they come out with a new one where I'm just like, I stand corrected. I can't wait until the next one to see how bad it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's one that, like, I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm the biggest fan of remakes, but if they're going to continue that, let's just start from scratch from the beginning again. Like, they can't be worse than what we've been getting.
Yeah, pretty much. So what about you? What do you got?
Okay. This is another more recent one. This is kind of the polar opposite of It Follows. This is one that I liked a little bit less than you did, although we both really enjoyed it. And this has more to do with something that we talked about we've talked about many times on our show before, and that's kind of the convenience of slashers, where everyone has to be at the right place, at the right time. Everything's got to go according to plan in order for this all to work out perfectly. In real life, that would never happen. It very well works for horror movies. I'm going to be kind of cryptic in my response to this because I don't want to give away the ending in case you guys haven't seen it. But when we get kind of the character reveal, and the movie I'm talking about is You're Next, it's like, well, okay, well, like I understand what's going on, but it's a little, I don't know, it's one of those things where they do explain and there is a motive, but I don't know necessarily the motive is equal to kind of the rationale of why somebody would go through all of this and to do it.
Oh, exactly. It's like they're like, oh, well, if we do this, there won't be any question as to why all of this happened. And I'm like, really? Because, yeah, I don't know. I'm right there with you.
Well, and not only that, but I mean, if you're to kind of play this out, and they needed kind of this person there as kind of a witness, there's another one in their group that could have been the witness too. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's one of those things where it's just like, wow, I guess. It doesn't really matter though, because that movie's a lot of fun, and Shirley Vincent is very much the reason why that movie is so much fun. And kind of that final act is so good that even though the killer reveal doesn't really work and the motive doesn't really make sense, it's just kind of icing on the cake, because by that point, like, you know, you're just kind of in it for the game, and it's a lot of fun. So that's a forgivable one for me.
Yeah, that one is more, I mean, it's pretty ridiculous, and again, a giant convenience down to the killer hiding under the bed because he just knew that they were going to, like, put the mom in there to go to sleep. And that's not that big of a spoiler because it's in all the trailers. But, I mean, it's super convenient for everyone.
So what else do you have on your list?
The dad and orphan. Everything he does.
That's a good one.
I mean, you just sit there and I got so frustrated even watching it the second time, because he's got all of these people giving him facts and, like, showing him things, and he's just like, oh no, you know, she's fine. There's no way she can do that. She's not evil. And I'm like, you've known this kid all of 3 weeks? Like, just, like, pay attention to your goddamn wife for a second and take a listen to this. He was just so, like just vehement about the fact that there's no way this could be happening the way that it was happening. And I'm so happy that at the end there wasn't like oh, I didn't die, I'm okay, I'm still alive, because I would have been like, no, kill him off.
Yeah, and I mean, that character is just, his rationale doesn't make any sense. It doesn't, like, and even, like, there's this icky scene towards the end with the dad that it's like, okay, well, if this is the reason that you're kind of protecting her, well, that's just gross. So, like, they just can't, they almost can't win. Like, yeah, just really gross and nasty.
Yep.
So
that one's
moving on to
really frustrating.
Oh, go ahead.
It was like that one's just really, really frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, I really hate that character in general, and I'm right there with you. Just really boring. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, oh well. But moving on, another one on my list, and this is a pretty big one. And this has to do with the ending of Halloween H2O going into the beginning of Halloween Resurrection. This is nothing but stupid character mistakes, and a lot of this has to do with plot convenience, because a lot of this has to do with the fact that, hey, they realized they could still make money off of it. Well, Michael Myers gets his head cut off, supposedly, but I guess it was a paramedic instead, even though he just couldn't take the mask off himself. There's a million big plot holes with that. And then we go to an insane asylum where I guess Michael's been just kind of, lurking outside, waiting for the right moment to go after his sister, and then sister is about to let him go, and she's like, no, like, I gotta check to make sure it's really him, and then she gets stabbed and she dies. Like, it's so dumb, and it's so out of character for, everything about that, it's just, and granted, we haven't had a lot of really good continuity when it's come to Halloween. That's kind of putting it nicely. But it seemed like they were getting things right on track again. They just didn't even try. And, it's very sad in the fact that, like, that's kind of how it headed, like, the first resurrection of the franchise, pun intended. But that's kind of where it kind of died, and unfortunately there's a lot of other kind of ways they could have handled it.
I'm not the biggest Halloween franchise fan. Like, looking back at it, part 1, brilliant. After that, it's like a hodgepodge of just kind of like crap and not so bad crap. I mean, they all have fun moments, and like there's a bunch of them that aren't as bad as like people say, but God, it's a rough series.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with any of the sequels is, like, and I'm kind of right there with you. With any of the sequels, like, I could probably name at least one thing that I like in each of them. But unfortunately, with every single one of the sequels, even the best one, there's at least one thing or one kind of plot point or character that I just didn't like at all. You know, 4 is my favorite sequel, but at the same time, you know, you have these, like, redneck, you know, hillbilly, you know, the townspeople going after Michael, and that stuff doesn't work. So, I mean, even, like, my favorites of, like, the sequels, there's kind of a whole plot thread in it where I'm just like, well, you could have probably cut that out because it doesn't need it.
Oh, see, that didn't bother me as bad. I mean, except for the fact that they were treated like Southern rednecks when in reality, I mean, there's a small town in Illinois is going to have some stuff like that. So that doesn't shock me at all, but it's just the way they were portrayed.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that I would have appreciated it or maybe liked it a little bit more if there was some kind of emotional connection, like maybe to, like, that these people had with, you know, the specific characters or possibly, you know, characters that had died before. I feel like there would have been more kind of invested. But, you know, we got these, you know, hillbillies with rifles. And, I mean, it's fine, but I think it does kind of take away some of the suspense.
Yeah.
So what other ones you got that you'd like to talk about?
Oh, well, this is a twofer on the Dawn of the Dead remake. Now, that movie is filled with stupid decisions, but 2 of the biggest that always stuck out is Andre knowing that his pregnant wife is infected and he's hiding her away, and he gives birth to the zombie baby, and even though it's a zombie and he knows it's a zombie, when the badass, like, old trucker woman comes in and wants to, you know, put down the zombie wife and baby because, you know, they'll kill them, he shoots her. And I'm just like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, no, like, he had months to get used to the fact that his wife is a zombie and his baby will be a zombie, but no, he lets it go and has no problem killing people for it. And then same thing with that red-headed brat who I love in Cry Wolf. Lindy Wolf is very good in Cry Wolf. Lindy Booth in Dawn of the Dead is awful because she risks all of their lives to get a goddamn dog who's not even the zombies aren't even paying attention to the dog. They couldn't care less. But yet she puts everyone in jeopardy because of, like, I can't with that. That's why, like, as far as the Dawn of the Dead remake goes, the first 20 minutes are great. I shut it off after that because it just turns very slowly from something that was very good to just pure crap.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. I would say, like, for fans out there that haven't seen a lot of remakes, if you're going to kind of see one kind of zombie remake, I would go for The Crazies over Dawn of the Dead, even though I know that the Dawn of the Dead remake has a lot of fans, and the opening act is very good, and it slowly falls apart after that. I think Crazies is just overall a better film, the remake. But, yeah, I completely agree with you. Like, with this movie, you know, we have this really likable, you know, female presence lead played by Sarah Polley, and you have this opening that's really suspenseful and really good. And, I was kind of like sitting there in my theater seat the first time I watched it. I was kind of ready to take it all in, and it kind of like got me right from the start. And then it kind of slowly went downhill, and a lot of that has to do with these characters making these dumb decisions. And it's so frustrating in the fact that, some movies are just bad from beginning to end, and you don't really notice the decline. Or some movies are just good from beginning to end. But the ones that kind of start out great and gradually get worse, those are really the most disappointing of all.
Exactly. Well, and the thing about one of the most disappointing things about the Dawn of the Dead remake is in the original Dawn of the Dead, there was a reason they had to flee the mall. In this one, they were still safe in the mall. I mean, and they still had supplies from the sounds of it. So them leaving was just like, oh, well, we need to leave now. But they didn't need to leave. They just wanted to. So that's another big dumb mistake they did. I might be wrong. It's been a while since I've seen, but...
No, I don't think you're wrong in that. I think that, too, this was kind of one of those decisions with location that was just like, well, we got to use a mall because had a mall in that one. There was no reason, like, that could have really been anywhere. It could have been a warehouse. It could have been a factory. It could have been really anything that was like, a big open area that, you're able to, kill the zombies, and there was no reason for it to be a mall. And we've kind of talked about it on the show before that, we want more mall horror, but when you have kind of these, here's a movie that has a mall and we're going to take advantage of it.
Yeah. But
what are you going to do?
Exactly.
So we got about I guess we still got 7 or 8 minutes left, so I'll give at least one more of mine. So this is a movie I've been meaning to rewatch because I didn't like it very much when I first saw it. And I know you really liked it, and a lot of other people loved it. A lot of the reason that I don't like this movie has to do with the ending and the decision that one of the characters makes. And once again, I will be kind of very cryptic on this to not give it away. But the last maybe 2 minutes of Cabin in the Woods, if the world ever ended because of this, I would be so angry. Let's just say that I would have no problem doing what the lead is supposed to do. I would have no problems doing that, and I will just leave it at that.
But at the same time, you wouldn't know that the world ended because of that, because the world would have been ended. But that kind of, but at the same time, I don't.
But if the world's going to end, I mean, that person's going to be dead already anyway. Okay.
I know, but at the same time, the idea of killing someone, especially one of your friends, is. And at the same time, it's just because they say so. I don't know.
But well, I mean, if I were her, and I was in this kind of factory place where there was kind of all these crates with all these different weird zombies and things and creatures and stuff that were running after me, I'd probably be like, yeah, maybe this is legit.
Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, the only reason she really doesn't is because of the werewolf.
That's true. I will give you that. And my whole thing with this could have been the fact that if I were this character, I could have easily shot him, even if that had nothing to do with the world ending. So I mean, that kind of
yeah,
adds
you
another
really
layer.
dislike that character.
Yeah, and I mean, it might be one of those things where I might just have to sit down and rewatch it again. Yeah, I just don't know. And it was just kind of it was like when you already don't like a character and kind of something really big and unfortunate happens because of that character, kind of rubs salt into the wound. But I know a lot of people like it, and it's a very ambitious film, and I appreciate what it kind of does to and for the horror genre. So I will probably be viewing it sometime again in the future. I'm not going to say when, though, because I probably won't watch it anytime soon.
Hold on really quick. Why don't you talk another one? I have to take a call really quick.
Okay, not a problem. So, Andrew's going to be gone for a couple more minutes. I will go on to another one that's on my list. This one is one of those that I kind of feel bad because it's a, quote, stupid decision, but it's one it's an honorable stupid decision, and that's the end of Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Nancy ends up dying because Freddy fools her into thinking that, Freddy's really her father. And, just kind of like this mythical figure appears and she gives her daddy a hug and everything's going to be fine. But not really, because it's really Freddy, and Nancy ends up dying. I suppose I should say spoiler alert, but if you guys haven't seen Nightmare on Elm Street 3, they probably aren't listening to the show. It's a sad way to see her character end. I'm glad that kind of she went out with a bang, and she was kind of, died heroically, and she dies, in a Patricia Arquette's arms. It's a very sweet scene. Nancy's a smart character, though, and I feel like she kind of would have done something instead of that. Like I don't know for sure that she would have really fallen for Freddy's trap. So, I guess there you have it with that. Andrew, are you still gone, or are you there? I think he's still gone. Well, so yeah, that was my other one. Just other dumb, stupid decisions. I would also pick the Scream franchise is kind of ripe with lots of them. In the first one, you got Tatum. She could probably easily escape. You have like the whole scene in Scream 2 with Haley and Sidney with the cop car. Do they go?
Sorry,
do they
I'm back.
Stay? Oh, okay. Yeah. So, I think did you end up? Okay, so I'm Alice. I just mentioned. I was talking about Haley and Sidney in Scream 2, and then before that, I mentioned Nancy in Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Yes. I will also, since we only have a few minutes, I will also add in everyone in The Purge except for Lena Headey, and even then she got questionable. Anytime a character is being chased by a car and they just run in a straight line. And, what was the big one? The kid and the dad in 28 days or 28 weeks later.
Oh, I forgot all about that one.
Oh, it's so frustrating. A, the kids for sneaking out, and B, the dad for being like, my wife's not infected. I'm going to make out with her, even though I know that it can be transferred through saliva. Like, just shut up. Shut up.
Yeah, just dumb. And to go back to The Purge, there's kind of like big plot point that was like, oh, well, I let this homeless man in because he was going to die, and now, while that all happened, the sister's boyfriend got in and got a gun and is going to kill the dad. Oh God, like that movie is just